Hello everyone and welcome to a new video. Today I am filming my next installment in series I have finished. This is episode 10, which is insane. I cover 50 series per episode, so that is like 150 series. That's insane! Some do add installments later after I filmed and said I finished them, etc. So did you read my stats? But it's okay, it's okay. So we are gonna cover 15 series today. I actually finished a lot of manga ones in this one, which is insane, never happens. And I've read a lot of manga lately. And this one covers from the end of March until the end of October 2023. So I really haven't done that well this year. But hopefully more episodes will come here and there. Obviously, they will come eventually. So the first series I finished for this episode is The Last Hours by Cassandra Clare. So that is the trilogy, the newest one. I didn't know which editions to bring, so I bought these. This is the Illumicrate ones. It is a trilogy, obviously the latest completed one in the Shadowhunters world. It consists of Chain of Gold, Chain of Iron, and Chain of Thorns. I showed you really badly. I was trying to show you the spines. I'm struggling. That's better, like this. This one is the sequel trilogy to the Infernal Devices, which was the first one set in the Victorian era, and now we are like with the, I was gonna say the kids of the characters in the first trilogy, and here we have their complete story. And it is wholesome. I really love following these kids and their own Shadowhunter adventures. It is a bit different because they were growing up with loving parents compared to like some of the other Shadowhunters we know that didn't really have parents in the first place, but obviously these are raised by the people we love. So I think that is an interesting reflection. These characters were teased and set up long before the series ever come out because of like Tales of Shadowhunter Academy and the Shadow Market one, and I really love those short story collections. So we had kind of seen the characters before and knew what we were setting up for the story, and it was fun to follow their journey. I found like this is one of my least favorite Cassandra Clare Shadowhunter books series. It was a lot of like scene, drama, moment, break the up scene, another drama moment, break that scene, another drama moment. So it was just a lot of people talking in different places and then like break the scene every time it's exciting and go back to that scene. I felt like it didn't flow as well as I wanted the others, and like the solutions for some of like the relationship stuff as well as just drama stuff was just, for me, I was like, what? So overall, like, didn't also love the plot in these either, but I love the characters and I love the world. Just like think it's not my favorite Shadowhunter series, but I completed it, and I will of course read Wicked Powers. I'm very excited for that to come. I have a lot of emotions for this series and I love them dearly, but not my favorite in the world. The next series we have is a duology, which is The Sands of Aravia, which is Bahafsa Faisal, which consists of We Hunt the Flame and We Free the Stars. So We Hunt the Flame was, when it was released, one of my most anticipated releases, and I didn't love it when I read it. It is like enemies to lovers kind of setup, but for me, the way it was set up, I just didn't love it at all. It didn't make sense for why these characters had feelings for each other. But it is about a girl who is hunting to survive and a boy who kills two. I was not gonna say survive, but he's an assassin and she's a hunter, and then they meet each other, and then magic might be returning in this world. Overall, I really liked the writing. I really liked the world it was set in. It was a good time. I really enjoyed the second book much more than I thought I would compared to how I felt for the first one, and I'm glad I finished the duology, and I'm very excited to read the next book by the author that is coming very soon next year, called The Book of Tea. Sounds and seems very exciting. So overall, like, I'm not saying this is bad, I'm just saying it wasn't exactly it for me, where like how things played out plot wise didn't like blow my mind in that regard, but it had some really beautiful writing and good characters. I just wish things were explored more in a way that made me enjoy the series more, but no regrets reading it and had a good time. Yay. And I used such a long time picking up the second book after reading the first one years ago. So granted, that also affected how I read the second book. Now we have the first manga series for this video. So we have The Girl from the Other Side by Nagabe. This one is a manga series I've been reading for a few years now, and I finally finished it. I even like read like the side stories thingy that came in the end, because it's really 11 volumes, but I added this one with like side stories. I don't know if it's coming more side stories, but in theory the main story is over, and we follow Shiva, who is a girl living on the outside, which is very weird because on the outside there's this kind of monsters going around that have this curse, and if you touch them or come close to them, you can also get this curse, which is living on the outside with one of these creatures, while on the inside the humans are not cursed. And I'm like, we're trying to find out like, how did she end up here? What is this world? And it's very sweet between her and teacher, as she calls him, and just the story of surviving together in this world. And then we kind of get some answers of like how we ended up like this, and it's very strange. I don't know if I love the conclusion to the series as much. It wasn't like amazing or like, oh my god, best conclusion ever. I kind of felt more confused than anything else. But the art and the atmosphere and Shiva and teacher in their, I was gonna say glory days, was one of the best things I read. The general like development and actual ending, I'm like, So yeah, I don't know, take that as you will. But overall, had a good time in the end, and I'm glad I finished actually one manga series, which is like amazing to me. That doesn't happen often because I used a really long time getting through them all, but I did it, guys. I did it, and it's definitely one I would reread, and I really do want to buy like the deluxe editions that have come of these because they are stunning. And obviously I will still keep these because that's what I do, but I still wanted the deluxe editions. Then I also finished another duology, which was Six Crimson Cranes. So that consists of Six Crimson Cranes and the sequel, The Dragon's Promise. I even also read the prequel, Her Radiant Curse, which you can read without having read these, but it was such a great addition to the story, and I can't, yeah, obviously it's kind of in the series, but it's also a standalone. Six Crimson Cranes is one of the best books I like ever read. I loved it so much. It follows this girl. It's inspired like by, I was gonna say Swan Lake and the Swan Brothers story. I don't know what it's called. And her brothers get cursed, so they turn into swans at day. And she also has her own curse on her and goes out to try to break this curse after her stepmother cursed her and her family. And it's just, just thinking about this book, I'm so emotional. It was so great. I was shocked. I didn't know it was gonna be like this. And then I read the sequel. And I just wish it was a standalone, honestly. Like, I'm not saying that this was terrible, but like the magic that I had in Six Crimson Cranes, nothing ever showed up in this. I don't know what this was actually. I feel like I deleted this book from my brain. There's a conclusion that I played out. I just didn't care. I didn't care about anything. I was like, meh. Then I read Her Radiant Curse, and my belief was back again because this was honestly amazing. I'm just having this here because obviously it belongs in this world, and like it follows the stepmom of this story. So if you read it, you know where she ends up, but you don't know the full story. And even me knowing everything, like knowing where she ends up, it was one of the most amazing things I read, and I give this 5 out of 5 stars, and it was absolutely amazing. So like, that was a lot. I have bought a matching edition to these, but it hasn't been shipped yet. I don't know when it's shipping. But yeah, so my conclusion is that read Six Crimson Cranes and Her Radiant Curse and just forget that the Dragon Promise exists, because it's not going to live up to what you live in Six Crimson Cranes. So there's no point reading it. Then we have another little duology, which is Wintersong and Shadowsong by S.J. Jones. This one is a labyrinth retelling, which I really, really enjoyed. Like, honestly, our main character makes music, and then obviously the Goblin Emperor wants her Goblin King. And it was a bit sexy, and it was weird, and it was really well written, and I really fell in love with these characters and wanted them to be together. And then I read this, and I'm like, what did this give me? Nothing! What's up with duologies? Like, don't make duologies anymore. I mean, the trilogy was the thing for a long time, and now everything is a duology, but every time I read a conclusion to a duology, they're not even good, so what's the point? It could have just been a standalone, honestly. I really, really enjoyed the first book. Just read it as a standalone. Forget that this book exists. I liked the end, but everything else, I was like, what? Why? So yeah, another disappointment in the ending, but initially liking the story overall. I don't know. Then I finished the other duology by Elizabeth Lim, which is Spin the Dawn and Unravel the Dusk. I have the beautiful, beautiful Fairy Loot editions. And Spin the Dawn surprised me a lot. It follows this girl that enters this competition to become the, what's it called, King's dressmaker. Is a dressmaker, tailor. Like, she's gonna like make quotes for the royal family, and then she has like this magical thing that's helping her in this competition, and it's like a journey, and oh, it was so great. Again, I was blown away by this, honestly. Like, I was reading and I was like, what? Like, because when I looked at it, I was like, okay, I will probably like it, but it's not gonna be like mind-blowing best book, you know? It was so good. And then guess what happened? I read the sequel. And it didn't have the magic of the first one. Like, why? Why would they do this? Why? It was good, But I just didn't care. Like, stakes were already high, you know, but like, it's like they're bringing up the stakes here. It was like war and shit. I don't even remember. I deleted this from my mind. I'm like, I don't care about this. I just want to make dresses and be in this adventurous state. And like, no. So again, pretend that this is a standalone and don't get disappointed like me. Then I read the first series read along we had with my Patreons. So the first series we read and picked out was The Memoirs of Lady Trent by Marie Brennan. So this is actually 5 books in theory, and then this sixth one I mean, is following like another character but related to Lady Trent. But this one was great, by the way, just saying. This is a series I have hard time, I was going to say explaining my feelings towards, but it does follow Lady Trent, who grows up in this world where she's a woman wanting to be assassinated in this world where basically she's supposed to get babies and get married, but she does it anyway, and she thrives. She's so clever, and she goes out on these expeditions, I was going to say studying different dragons and different types of dragons, and then a lot of other shit happens as well. And basically in this world she has published like scientific shit about dragons, but we don't get to read that because this is her diaries about like the behind the scenes stuff. People just guessed that over the years, fictionally obviously. So we are getting like all the inside scoop of like who she was married to and her kids, and like kids plural, she only has one kid. Or does she? Is that a spoiler? I don't know. And then she also like everything that happened behind the scenes, not like about the science stuff. So we don't really focus on the dragons. We focus a lot about her life and how she did stuff personally in her life on these journeys. So it's like you think it's going to be about dragons, and it is, but it's not. So for me that is confusing because I wanted more dragons. It was a lot of like politicking and talking and walking, and I wanted like dragons. I wanted dragons. I want to see dragons, you know. But that wasn't the focus because she has already written about the dragons, but in the thing that is not real, and I would want to read that instead. But at the same time, you get very invested in this character, very invested in this world, very invested to see where this character would go and like what the discoveries they will eventually make. And it is truly a ride in the end. While I wasn't blown away by all the books, I ended up really liking it and was very impressed by like what we concluded with in the series. And honestly, my favorite was not even the one following her. I was very invested in this last book, which was very different from the other ones. Now I like kind of want more. I want more with different characters in this world. It was fun to see the developments. It was fun to follow this journey, even though it became like very like, I was gonna say bland sometimes, because it wasn't like I wasn't blown away by like the stuff happening. It was just like, oh, it's the same again. But at the same time enjoying the full picture. I don't know how to describe it, but it was a ride, and they're not that long, and it was fun to read it together with my patrons. So I completed a series because of them, which is great, you know. Then I had another manga series I finished, which is, yes, I'm as shocked as you, which is Boys Run a Riot by Keito Gaku. This one follows a boy who is trans but not out yet, and is very miserable because of this, because he's not living as himself. And then he gets this new friend, and they start a clothing brand together where a main character feel like he can express himself, and it's like a lot of transphobia and stuff happening in the series, so trigger warnings for that. But it's also the beautifulness of friendship and just cheering for this clothing brand. So it's a very short manga series. It's only 4 volumes. I don't know, maybe for some reason my volume 2 is shorter than all the others, and I kind of want to fling it out of the window. But I think it was interesting. It had some tropes that I don't generally love. I felt a bit like iffy about it sometimes. But in the end, I enjoyed the conclusion. I enjoyed seeing these characters' journey, and I thought it was nice. I would love to see more of where they like end up doing. Like in a few years we can get like volume 5, you know. But it was still overall enjoyable, and the first volume did make me cry. So I really love that one. It's my favorite, and the overall story was okay in the end. Then I finished another manga series, which granted I'm as shocked as you are, okay? Because I don't finish manga series. It doesn't happen. But here we are. I'm trying to turn them around. I got out all the volumes off my shelf. So we have Beastars by Haru Tagaki. Here's all of them. It looks insane. And this one is basically set in this world where we have herbivores and carnivores not eating each other anymore. And we follow Gochu, who's like a big scary wolf, and everyone's like, oh, he's scary. But he's actually just a softie, and he falls in love with a bunny, and it's really weird. But then things play out And it is this 22 volume series, I had to double check, that just spawns over like a lot of like politics in this world, because like how they live is really interesting, because like there's big animals and small animals, and you need to take into consideration of what all the animals need, and then they also want to eat each other, but they can't because it's illegal, and it's really, really weird. It's very interesting. It had a lot of like politicking, a lot of softness and friendship, and I overall enjoyed seeing the story play out. It's definitely like one of the weirdest things I read, and one of the most unique things I read, but I didn't like love the ending. I was just like, oh, that's it. Like, we read all of this, and this is what we get. Like, after all of this, that's it. That's kind of what I was sitting with, but overall I'm fine with it. Like, I don't regret reading it. But oh my god, it has been a journey over many years because I'm still picking up stuff. But I did really enjoy it, and I have also picked up Beast Complex, which is a spin-off with short stories from the world. So I'm excited to see more, hopefully, characters we know doing stuff there. And I don't know how long that will be going on, but that's like a spin-off, so I'm still counting, obviously, this as completed. And it looks insane when you hold them all up, but it's fun. And now they would just rot on my shelf. I might reread it one day. I'm currently watching the anime, so it's really weird for me to be in all the beginning of the story in anime, because obviously we are so different in the end. So it's weird for me to like, oh my god, this happened, but it's so long ago for me, because I literally started like 3 years ago or something. But yeah, it was fun to complete. It was. Then I finished Her Radiant Emperor, which consists of Shio Became the Sun and He Around the World. I was hoping for a whole series, but we only got a duology. But so excited for whatever Shelley publishes next. So this one is inspired by like Chinese history, and we have a main character who doesn't really have a great destiny, but her brother does, and then he dies, so she steals his destiny and goes on this journey to become the emperor of a land that is split with magic and brutality and torture and so many things happening. It's one of the like most intelligent series I've read. I feel like I didn't understand everything when I read it, because it was just like, this is too smart. I read this first book twice and I still don't think I understand the brilliance of the story, but I absolutely love it. And I read the second book and I was like blown away by it, and I'm like, okay, I need to reread it again. So I'm planning to read them both again and just like gasp over what this author has created, because it's truly beautiful and amazing. I truly, truly love it. So I would recommend it wholeheartedly. The ending was strong. It left me gasping. So here's the case where Duology stands strong to the end. Then I finished 2 series in Rick Riordan Presents. First we have the Storm R Trilogy, which got some dust on it, Dynasty. And this one is by G.C. Cervantes, and this one is based on Mayan mythology and full of Sane, who finds out that he is maybe the son of a Mayan god, and he's got in this adventure to stop the god of death in the first book. And we meet different, obviously, creatures from this world, and we have a crew of characters and so many great moments. It's truly a ride, and I really had a great time with it, and think it's so fun. Like, honestly, the characters were great, the adventure we were on, the creatures we met, really great. So really recommend. And I also finished the Duology, The Shadow Bruja, by also G.C. Cervantes. This is based more on Aztec mythology, and it follows one of the characters, Ran, from the Sword Runner. Do recommend reading that first, just because then you get the full story. But this is a duology, and we follow Ran, who comes into her own place, her own crew, her own adventure, and I absolutely loved it and had a good time. Especially the first one here, when Ran is like tempted by the dark side. It was so cool, because she is half like Mayan god, half Shadow Bruja. So she has like, I was gonna say, split stuff in her of like where she belongs, etc. And it was such a great time. I really enjoyed it, and definitely recommend reading both of these if you like, you know, books in the realm of Percy Jackson, etc. Then miraculously I finished another manga series, which should have been like illegal for me to finish that many, but I'm so happy. So I chose out, oh, I can't pick it up, Happiness by Shujo Ushimi, which I read for like a scary Patreon readathon weekend, and I read the whole thing. I have read from 1 to 8 before, but hadn't read 9 and 10, and finally like reread through them all to finish the last 2. And I had such a good time. It was honestly the best thing. It's a vampire story. We have some teenagers in high school and they turn into vampires, and then chaos ensues, so you have to read it to find out what more happens. It is honestly so atmospheric. The art that Ushimi gives, just amazing, and honestly like, wow. So yeah, really recommend. And it's dark and weird, and yeah, a really good time. And obviously super scary. Now I can read Blood on the Tracks, but I might read Flowers of Evil first. Then I read the next Patreon but read series, which was the Dandelion Dynasty by Ken Liu. So I have the UK editions that forms like one thing on the spine, and it also forms a full picture on the front covers, which like I can't show you apparently. And this one is a little quartet, not exactly little though, like the books are huge. And I don't know how to explain it, but it's set on these islands of Dara, where we basically fight out who's going to control Dara people. There is civil war, there is people invading them, and then we have these people trying to defend and conquer and blah 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 blah. It is a interesting ride. It's written very like historical and very like a textbook kind of. So I had to struggle with connecting with the characters, because I felt like we were like just told what they were doing like in a historical setting than like being with them doing it. But at the same time, some of the things playing out in the end was insane. Like the long planning, the emotions I got when we saw characters in the end after being with them for so many years. It was great that way, but I don't think it's like my favorite fantasy series just because how it was written. And there was probably a lot of cleverness in this, but I honestly missed it because of the writing. I'm so sorry. I know that a lot of people really love them, and I can definitely see a lot of cool things in them, but I just couldn't do it. So I enjoyed it, but I sadly didn't love it as I wanted to. I gave like it over like 3 stars, and I feel like I'm happy I read them, and I might read them in the future and reconsider what I just said. But right now I just felt like it was fun to see the end, but it was also painful to read it sometimes. I'm sorry. And the last series we have today is The Salvation Cycle by Jodie Meadows, which apparently just is a duology. And when you say cycle, it seems to me it's going to be more books. It consists of The Night Render and Dawnbreaker. I don't really have a physical copy of Night Render, but I am going to get one because I did really enjoy this. Night Render, the first book, we have 3 point of views. We are set in this world where Malice hunts them a lot, and then we have like 3 kingdoms on this island, and 2 of the kingdoms are going to get married. The princess disappears, and the dude, the prince, wakes up in Night Render, who's there supposed to be woken every few years or so to like fight back the Malice. They haven't done this in 400 years. They're kind of screwed. She's back, the Night Render's there, the prince, and then we have the princess who disappeared, or was trapped actually, more like, by the Malice. And just the way the characters were done in the first book at least was so great. I really loved seeing this world. I was so surprised about how invested I was in the story. It was really interesting because I couldn't really guess where the story was going. So I had a really good time and would very much recommend. Now for this second book, I did still enjoy seeing the storylines play out and see everything play out. I just like didn't love how I felt like everything really neatly fit together, and I didn't love like the rushed ending, because like we are finishing this because it's a duology. At the same time, I don't know how I would have felt if it was in like trilogy where everything would have been stretched out. I don't know, but I would like to spend more time in this world with these characters. So when I say cycle, doesn't mean it's coming like more spin-offs. Is it not done? I don't know, but I saw people calling it duology, so I'm calling it, saying it's finished in this one, and then if more is added, then more is added, and I will read those and still finish it. But yeah, that was actually 15 series. It went faster, I think, than usual. Did I talk faster? I'm really sorry if I did. I'm impressed by myself for finishing this many manga series in general. And yeah, that is my report. I think it's not going to come another episode this year. I haven't been able to participate in the Family Book support group as much this year as I did, I think it was last year, and where I did really great in finishing so many. And now it's just been very slow and more random when I finish stuff, which then leads to me never finishing stuff. So hopefully I will do better in 2024. I will let you know how it goes. Thank you so much for watching this. Leave a flower emoji down below if you enjoyed this. You should see me soon in a new one. Thank you so much for watching, and you should see me soon. Bye!